Here we are, Castrum Album, and the Roman have already moved a couple of their less valuable leaders, and really their command restrictions are beginning to tell heavily in this scenario, more than in most. They don't have a lot of commanders, and what they do weren't necessarily in the best places at any given time. It's hard to keep your Romans with the correct units that they can command, especially when they can give line commands early on and then deploy those units. What ended up happening was this one prefect was sitting on the top of a lot of principes. He moved forward an ally unit, but other than that he really wasn't able to do much, and he doesn't have a lot of actions anyway. And then the tribune had to actually walk over to try to grab some units. Eventually they'll split their command up in an even way, but the scenario doesn't start with them in good formation. And then over here, well, I've got my horses spread, one on each side at this point, so he's kind of standing in the middle trying to give orders to both. He has a lot of range, so he can get away with that. He can actually run back and forth to do it. His cav chased off a light cav here. Didn't get a pursuit because it ran into some other light cav, and rallied this. But now there are no momentums or anything, so we're going to go to the Carthaginian leaders, and they're much better. 4 feels a lot better than 3 to me somehow. It's just more chance of an activation, more people you can activate. So we'll see how this turns out, but it looks pretty good for Carthage at this point. And the Roman line in the center here is actually collapsing completely. Their attempt to push in both directions doesn't look like it was working well. Granted, they were also pushing forward here, but between Velites and a few heavier units, those light infantry, a little support from the cav here, they've just smashed everything. Sent a few units routing this way, a few this way. There's some dead units that got chased down. Blaric's slinger went and shot somebody who was dead back here, or was routing back here. Almost out of commands at this point. Only the 2 overall commanders are still active. Publius Scipio is going to have a hard time trying to rally his forces. That's pretty much what he's got to do. If he doesn't get that under control, his army will be off the board. Let's see what we're looking at here. He's right now got 15, 22, 27 more points. That's going to put him into the 40s, and there's probably close to enough points to get rid of him right now. So he's got to get his army back in shape to try to punch through. I don't think there's much chance, but we'll see. So here's our ending position for the turn. Hasdrubal's managed to push his cav and his elephants slamming deeper into that line, just pretty much trimmed it down to the 1 column there to hit it. That's facing this way. It can't do a thing because it can't get out of the way of these faster things that are cutting through it. On the other side, we're seeing them hit from here. There's a big empty gap right up the middle, but they can't do anything about it. Likewise over here, you see the Carthaginians moving forward in the center. Not much that the Romans can do. They've got to try to push back to prevent their line from getting hit from both sides. And then over here, we got the Numidians smacking into some of these guys in the flank. And it's just really ugly for the Romans. They weren't able to deploy quickly enough and get their formation into place and be able to kind of push forward as they would have had to. Instead, they're getting ripped apart. Our points: 11, 16, 23, 31, 38. That brings me up to 55 for the Romans. They're not long for this battle. I'm guessing 1 more turn, and they're out of it, because these guys over here, there's a good chance, like some of these, that they're just going to get popped. They're going to get put in a position where they have to retreat and can't. Also, we get some Triarii running off the board. We get some of this. All the Carthaginians have that's leaving is a couple of Blarec slingers. No big deal there. Alright. Okay, the Romans started this turn off launching their Triarii against an elephant. They wiped it out, but it sent the Triarii fleeing at the same time. They also used their cav. An attack over here against the light cav failed. And it's rallying back here. There was momentum in place. Another cav speared away the the lancers that were harassing the flank, but there's still one unit there left for that. Trying to clear up that flank, doing a pretty good job actually, but there's just so much cav. I don't know, for the Carthaginians, I don't know, they should be able to come back and drive them back away, but it does take the immediate pressure off, I think, to a large extent. Well, Mago's cav swept in, and this is the Numidians, and they're just so awesome. And smacked up the remains of the Legion on this side. And because they're cav, they have the pursuit bonus, so they're able to kill things right away. And we see Roman calves, Roman losses at 28 have gone way over what they needed. They're now at like 83. I'm going to halt this now based on that, really, because the game is over. I mean, the question is, sure, what's left? Well, more Carthaginian attacks on the Romans. We could still keep seeing that, but it's not like the scenario ends with a full pursuit or anything like that. It's not like you take care of that. It's not like there's any chance that Carthage could end up losing as well, or losing anything significant. They're going to lose a couple of those slingers up there for 4 more points. They lost an elephant, that's 6 points. They're not going to come anywhere near their loss levels. So they've basically prevented the Romans from making this advance forward, and they're going to go fleeing back, and probably this entire army is destroyed at this point. Not just because of the attack, but this is Cav, you know, I mean, we wouldn't be playing that out, but this is Cav pursuing it. It's going to finish it off. If they can't get to that fort, it's dead, you know, in the state it's in. All right, not a lot to be said here. Interesting little scenario. I like being able to see the Romans at such a disadvantage. I don't know how they can actually win this one. Somebody who's better at playing the Romans probably could deploy them more quickly than I could, and maybe not lose a turn. I really lost a turn with a couple of my lesser leaders because I couldn't just push forward. At first it looked like, how am I going to stop this? You know, it looks like enough frontage that if I could get a line up here, the cav is stopped, but I couldn't get that line in place. Maybe I engaged too quickly with the Romans. I should have spent my time trying to build the defense rather than the attack. Let the Carthaginians come forward and attack if they want, or I'll slowly move the Romans forward and push the cav back. Didn't happen though. Instead the Romans tried to push through, and that didn't work. Alright, up it goes.